was it that said that's like butter? It's like butter. Butter. That was absolutely beautiful. How many of you sitting here today have ever had something walk into your life? And it was like, wow, I was just thinking about that. You know, ask any pregnant woman. They start thinking about being pregnant. All they see are pregnant women everywhere. Think about buying a blue Volkswagen Beetle, which was my dream as a child. All I saw were blue Volkswagen Beetles that I couldn't afford. The reality is it's not funny at all. It is by right of consciousness. It is by right of the creative ability that we are created in and as. Yes? So our job on this planet is to be creative. We are designed that way in the image and after the likeness of creativity itself, the presence of God. And so today, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to live your life in such a way that the impossible becomes the possible. They said that humankind would never fly. We now own the skies. They said it was impossible to sail around the world. We did it. They said many diseases were a death sentence. Ha ha! Tell that to the survivors. They said we couldn't break the sound barrier, travel at the speed of light, run a 4-minute mile. We've done it all. They said you can't fly to the moon. You can't clone life or connect with 1,000 people in 100 different countries all at the same time. We said, watch me. They said they couldn't conceive of artificial hearts, microchips, satellite communications, personal computers, or surgery, or an unborn fetus surgery. It's commonplace today. Every advancement throughout history, every single advancement, every single good thing that has ever happened on the face of this planet was once labeled impossible. Yes? By the laws of physics. By the laws of physics, it cannot and will not be done. But by the law of God, we proved it. Yes? By the law of the universal creative ability expressed and implanted in the heart of every human being, the impossible became the possible. We are to celebrate that. That's what this community is all about. And who knew this? Who was the greatest spiritual scientist, the greatest alchemist to ever walk the face of the planet? Jesus. There's many, many others. I hope you weren't going, Jesus. Our master teacher, Jesus, knew what was possible and refused to stand in the face of the impossible and accept that. The human condition will... How many people have people in your life that will tell you things are impossible? Yep. You get to go within to the Christ of your very being and prove that the impossible is possible. What did he tell us? He said, with God, all things are possible. Yes? He didn't say some things. He didn't say the easy things or the low-hanging fruit. He said all things are possible. He also said that, and this is how we do it. This is what he told us. Anything is possible if a person believes. When he taught this, he took the power of creation and said, don't look at me. Don't put it all on me. If a person believes it is possible, here you go. Here's a reality. All the good, all the God, all the magnificence you could ever desire was given to you. The minute you entered the field, all the ability to create the dream, the vision, was right there. But we must believe it is possible. He also said, seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door will be opened. And all things will be added unto you. So you have to seek. You see, we're in a co-creative partnership. We are designed as co-creative beings. Not just to ask and sit back and do nothing, but to knock on the door, to open the door, to receive that which is on the other side of the door, and be a co-creator with the essence of God showing up as each and every person in this room. Yes? I want to bring up to the platform here somebody in my life who believes in the possible. You've heard a little bit about David Hiller. He travels around the country teaching the principles that we're going to talk about today. He travels around the country making a difference in the lives of people who had forgotten that anything was possible. And he hands them back. He hands them back the truth, the spiritual truth, that there no block, no mountain, no river can get in the way of you becoming all that you can be. And I want to say before he comes up here, About 5 years ago, this church was on its knees. It was on its knees in every possible way, financially, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And I felt very alone as the person who was charged with pulling us out of this hole. David Hiller was the only minister in the Unity movement that reached out to us when we were on our knees. And I made a sacred vow that the man who taught me what was possible, the possibility that we are living in right here today, we're out of that hole. We're so far beyond that hole. We're living and flourishing. And he partnered with me, and he coached me into what was possible, and we're living in the love of David Hiller. I would like you to please welcome with a resounding applause a possibility thinker beyond possibility thinkers, David Hiller.
We were told a long time ago by the Christ that we could do all of the things that he did and even greater. And I grew up in Unity, so I pondered that statement all my life. And I want to tell you a story about what is possible. I was living in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I had a vision. I had a desire of the heart. I wanted to move to Southern California, in particular Santa Barbara, California. Didn't know anyone out there. Didn't have anything set up for myself. I just knew in my heart of heart that this was my place to be. And so I practiced a technique to create this dream. Every single day I held that vision in my heart of hearts. And I saw myself living in Santa Barbara and really happy. Everything flowing and life absolutely wonderful. And every single day I recreated that vision, and I felt what it would feel like to be there. Because bringing the feelings into the vision makes it very powerful. And then I called together a group of like-minded, like-hearted people to hold the vision with me and to be very active vision holders, to cheer me on, to encourage me, to help me believe even more powerfully that this dream was going to come true. And one morning I woke up. This is a true story. One morning I woke up and a voice spoke to me. I call it the God voice. And the God voice said, "Pack your bags, get in your car, and drive to Santa Barbara now." Well, you know how we tend to argue a little bit with that God voice every once in a while? Well, I have to admit, I did.
That voice told me to go to Atlanta, and I argued a lot. So I was leaving California to come here.
And I thought about that. After about 4 or 5 hours of arguing with my God voice, I thought about that, and I said, you know, I practiced this. I believe in it. I know it's going to happen. I'm getting the God voice, the go for it, right here, right now. And God does not ever lead us astray. So I'm getting that encouragement from the divine, and I'm going to go for it. So literally that afternoon, I packed my bags up, got in my car, and started the drive to Santa Barbara from Florida. It took me about 4 days to get across country, pulled up to a Motel 6, probably the only Motel 6 in Southern California.
That'll cause you to pray.
Yeah, that was a miracle in itself. Unpacked my bags, went in the room, looked around, and I thought to myself, oh my God, what have I done? I don't know anybody. I don't have any work lined up. I don't know what I'm going to do. But that God voice spoke to me again and said these words: close your eyes, open the phone book, pick somebody's name, call them on the phone, and introduce yourself. Well, I thought about that for a little while. And then I thought, this is California. Anything goes out here. Why not? So I did. I closed my eyes, picked somebody's name out of the phone book, and it was a woman. So I thought, I sure hope I get the answering machine. But no, she answered the phone. So I said, at the risk of you thinking I'm nuts, here's my story. I had a vision. I wanted to come out here. I saw myself living here. I held that vision every day. I called forth my dream team to hold the vision with me. I got the God guidance, and so I went for it. So here I am. So I held my breath, and I waited for her response. Because I told her I picked her name out of the phone book. And she said, Dave, you're not going to believe this. I'm a facilitator for a weekend workshop with hundreds of teachers and counselors and healers that are going to be there. You've got to come to this workshop because a miracle is going to happen for you. And I said, thank you, Jesus. And she was absolutely right. It was an amazing event. There was hundreds and hundreds of people there, really neat people, and I had a chance to get up and tell my story. And I said, I had the vision. I wanted to come out here. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any work lined up, but I just knew it was my time to come. So I did this process to create this dream, and when I got here, I didn't know what to do. So I picked somebody's name out of the phone book, and it happened to be a facilitator of this workshop. So I came, and I'm here now. And about 150 people stood up and started clapping, and they said 3 words that I'd been waiting to hear for many, many, many years, ever since I came back from Vietnam. They said, welcome home, Dave. And then somebody came up to me and said, we have this big 6-bedroom house on the cliffs overlooking the ocean in Santa Barbara, California, and we have plenty of space. You have a room, if you want it, with an ocean view. And then somebody came up to me and said, I'm looking for a really gutsy therapist to come and work for us. It's your job if you want it. Why did that happen? Because I believed that all things are possible. How often do we hold ourselves back from fear, from worry, from doubt, or from feelings that we don't deserve God's blessings? Well, guess what? We deserve all of the blessings that divine has for us in every single moment that we're on this planet. And nothing pleases the divine more than for us to remember that. To remember who we are and what we deserve as exquisite expressions of God. All things are possible. I don't care what it is or who is telling you that it's not possible, because it is. About 6 years ago, I had an extremely painful condition due to a trauma in my head. And the trauma was so severe that it created a condition of such unbelievable pain that I almost left the planet. And when that pain hit me, it started right here, and it branched out through all the nerves in this side of my head. And it was so intense. It was a burning, searing pain. It was so intense. It felt like a hot poker being stuck in my head, and I was burning from the inside out. And it hurt so much that my body would begin to shake like this, and my eyes would tear up. I wouldn't be able to see, and I would be in absolute agony, and I didn't know what it was about. And so I went to my doctor, and my doctor examined me, and he said, I think I know what this is, but I'm not going to say right now because I want to send you to a neurologist, a specialist. And on one level, I was grateful that he didn't name it right then, but on another level, I knew it was really serious. And so I went to the neurologist. I'd never met him before in my life. My wife went with me. had an experience of hearing the opposite of the God voice when I was with him. He examined me, and he said, you have a condition called trigeminal neuralgia. This is severe damage to the trigeminal nerve in this side of your head, and it branches out all throughout your head and your neck, and that nerve is damaged, and so it burns. And then he said, this is what we call a medically incurable condition. And some people call this the suicide condition because people can't stand the pain and literally kill themselves. And then he said, and you're probably going to be in pain the rest of your life, so you might as well just get used to it. It felt like a tornado went through his mouth and hit me right in the chest and knocked me up against the wall and knocked my breath out. And I looked at my wife, and I turned completely white. And she looked at me, and she was terrified. And my whole life flashed before my eyes. And I knew in that moment that I was at a choice point. If I chose to believe him, it was over for me. But I heard that God voice speak to me. And that God voice said, anything's possible, David. And so I looked him right in the eyes, and I said, how dare you say that to me? I do not believe you. I will not accept what you're saying, and I will heal this, and you are fired as my doctor. I took my wife's hands, and we walked out of that doctor's office, and I never looked back. 2 days later, I was driving in Myrtle Beach, and the only thing, when I had an episode of that, the only thing that gave me any relief at all was ice. And so everywhere I went, I had an ice bucket with me. And I was driving on Highway 17 in Myrtle Beach. I was in the left lane, and I had one of the episodes of the burning, searing pain. I started trembling. My eyes watered up, and I could not see what I was doing when I was driving. And I looked up like this. I couldn't even see. I looked up, and I said, God, just get me over to the shoulder somehow so I don't hit anyone and no one gets hurt. Somehow I managed to move over to the right lane and then over to the shoulder, and I parked the car, and I was trembling in agony, and I put some ice on my head like this, and I looked up, and I said, God, if there's anything out there at all that can heal me, just let me know what it is. And I swear to you, within 10 seconds, a voice on the radio made an announcement. And they said, there is a new clinic in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the only one in the entire world where a medical doctor and an engineer have worked together to create a new laser treatment to work with chronic pain from nerve damage. I literally thought God, I thought God was talking to me through the radio. I admit it, And they started naming all of these conditions that they were working with this new laser. And one by one, they named the condition, and then there was a pause. It was very Hollywood-like. And they said, in the last condition that they're working with, and this clinic has only been there for a month or two, and they're having great success with, is called trigeminal neuralgia. I whipped out my cell phone. They gave the number. I whipped out my cell phone. I called them on the phone, and the next miracle happened for me. A medical doctor answered the phone. And so I told him what was going on, and he said, you come here right now. We're going to help you. And I literally got in that car, and I drove to that clinic right then and there, talked to the doctor. They took me in and started treating me. I told him what the neurologist said. And they said, we're going to do something about that. And after a number of treatments, I am completely 100% healed. Now, I want you to think about this. A medical doctor says this is medically incurable, and you might even die from it. And I said, no way. I choose to believe that all things are possible. And God interacted with that belief impeccably. Impeccably. What keeps us from our good, from our healing, from our blessings? Fear. And fear comes from our ego. And our ego's job is to survive, not to thrive, not to live to the fullest. It's just to survive. So we got to listen to the God voice in our heart, because it does not lead us astray. And it tries to speak to us all the time. But if we're not listening, if we're afraid, if we're surviving, if we're in judgment or fear or upset, we're not going to hear that God voice. So I learned something from that every moment that I'm in my heart is another moment that God can speak to me and I can actually hear the message. And that was a huge awakening for me. One of the things that I did during the period of time that I was in pain before I went to the doctor, it was so intense that I literally said to God a couple of times, if this is what my life's going to be like, go ahead and take me. And God directed me to do something very interesting, and I'll never forget it. God told me to do something that a lot of Asians tend to do when they're in pain, to literally go into the pain and become one with it and ask it what its message is to me. Why is it here? What am I to learn from it? So think about that. If we're here to love and learn and grow, our job is to embrace what is and learn from it, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. Even pain is a messenger. And I learned that. And I've talked to a lot of people about listening to the messenger.
So some of you sitting here today have a challenge, an obstacle, a pain, something that doesn't feel comfortable, that is stirring within you. And just like David said, pay attention to it. Embrace it. Hug the monster, we like to say many times. Hug the monster, because it has a gift there. I'm going to invite you to stand up and do something that my YOU taught me, the Youth of Unity. Stand up. And I want you to picture that obstacle in front of you right now. And rather than resist it, because that which we resist will always persist, that which we are pushing against is going to be amplified. And I want you to picture that obstacle right in front of you right now and place your hands upon your hips. And I want you to put a smile on your face. And I want you to make friends with the big, ugly, hairy thing that is before you, that maybe was causing you scary. Look at each other. And I want you to do exactly what I do. Make peace with it and go, All right, now one more time for the subconscious mind, because that was silly and fun, but this is a spiritual teaching, actually. When you are fighting, when the face is about making something go away, you don't get the lesson. Sometimes we have to be as neurotic as making a stalking phone call to somebody and it said, God told me to call you and that we're supposed to go out. Sometimes you have to make a crazy decision to close your eyes when you're behind the wheel of a car. No, don't make that decision.
Don't do that.
But you have to make peace with whatever is. And for the subconscious mind, because it's part of you, that's driving the boat, that's driving the car right now, that fear, that idea. Put your hands on your hips, and one more time, release anything within you that would keep you from realizing the good that's on the other side of that veil. Together, we do it. Have a seat. Here's the way you change the paradigm, you change the reality when you change the conversation. Thoughts held in mind will reproduce after their kind. Always, always, always. It is universal spiritual law. Where is the conversation needing to be changed? Here, between your ears, there's a conversation going on. And if you don't like what life is showing you, what's showing up in your life, the activity of the universe is set up. God has set up itself as the very cosmos that you live in and as to be directed by your conversation. The one here, and the one here, and the one here. You want to change the paradigm, change the conversation. That's all that David did here. He changed the conversation and didn't live by a finite reality determined by a relative experience, the ever-changing human experience. That's not who you are. The diagnosis that somebody gives you, make peace with, maybe you should commit suicide, that's not who you are. He changed the conversation by saying, my power will not be contained in the physical. My power is contained within, and I will change the conversation. Jesus, our master teacher, changed the conversation. You know, he only had basically 3 years of ministry and a few conversations. He went around talking about humanity, changing the conversation. That's it. The entire direction of the human experience changed as a result of a conversation. So I want you to think about the conversation you had before you came here today, maybe yesterday. The conversation that you're going to have over lunch today. Does it have the ability to change the paradigm that is your life in its current context? Oh, I hope that's a resounding yes. It is. You see, this is the creative impulse of God. This talk, these words, and the consciousness behind the words, and the feeling behind the words has the ability to change the entire course of humanity. Don't be flippant about what words you are choosing, because God is responding. God as law and God as love knows only to respond. And you want to follow the leading of the vision. You know, here's a context. If you read the book of Genesis, there are 2 stories of creation. You ever see that? Ever notice that? Wonder why that is? Because everything is created twice. It must first be created in mind before it can be made a manifest reality. David had to create a new context in his mind and in his heart before he could ever realize the miracle of the relationship, of new diagnosis, of being pain-free. And in the book of Genesis, the first creation story is that which is being manifest in the mind of God. It is pure potentiality. There is no Garden of Eden, Adam or Eve. Now, we take all that metaphorically, metaphysically. But that good was only existed in the pool of infinite possibility. It was not in the manifest realm yet. That's the second creation story. And so many of us get stuck. We have the vision. I know what I want. I can see it. I can taste it. But I don't know how to make it manifest in my world. That's the most beautiful, magnificent place of creation. It's a place of choice, the choice that David talked about. To make a decision that says, I will not use the sensory world to define myself, that which is going to leave me wanting. It's a finite reality, and it is not possible. There are things by man that are impossible. We are called to go within, to source energy. The one power, the one presence, the one goodness, the one life. There is not 2 things going on. Nothing is against you. We turn within to the river that is the spirit of the light, the Christ that we are. How many of you, where do you end up? If you follow a river long enough, where will you always end up? The ocean. It knows only to go to the ocean. Well, guess what? Spirit is like a magnificent river. And if you stay in the journey long enough, yes, you're going to be maybe tumble a little bit. You're going to have human experiences that feel difficult, rocks and waterfalls. But if you follow the experience of God long enough, you will end up at the ocean. You will be setting sail upon an ocean of possibility beyond anything that you can imagine right here in this now moment. The master teacher taught us, but every prophet throughout time has taught us the same thing. This is the creative center of the universe. And if you don't like what life is showing you, go back to the river. This all reminded me of a little song I used to sing about 25 years ago. I want to share it with you. Some people look at the ocean but never set foot past the shore, while others set sail and never look back and go where no one's gone before. Some people look at a mountain and the fear of it shadows their life, while others look up and chart out their course as slowly they start their long climb. Contained within there is a very important idea. Others look up. It is the upper room. If you read the whole story of Jesus, his last couple of weeks before Easter, it was a constant process of looking up to the higher vibration, transcending the human experience, transcending the human limitations, transcending the sensory experience, and knowing. Jesus knew where he came from. He knew where he was going, but more importantly, he knew who he was. He knew that infinite place of connection and oneness. And nothing and nobody could take that away from him. We are called to follow the example. Not to make him the great exception of what is possible, but to look at his words when he said, "Follow me, follow me, follow me." And to go back to the river, to go back to the changed conversation, to go back to the truth. He told us that we will know the truth, and the truth will set us free from the bondage of human limitation, free from the bondage of human experience, free from any limitation, self-created, because it is an illusion, this illusory world of the relative realm. We go back to the absolute, unchanging place of connection with the presence of God. Jesus said, faith the size of a mustard seed, and we'll say to that mountain, move. Well, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. Oh, really? The house I live in today, we bought that house because there was a beautiful mountain right behind it. Looking out our dining room window was a magnificent mountain with lush, beautiful green trees. And somebody, a builder here, decided he had the faith of a mustard seed. And in the course of 3 days, and by the way, 3 is a metaphysical number, it's as long as it takes for completion and wholeness. In 3 days, all the resources that builder needed, all of the people he needed, all of the abundance he needed. And I'm still grieving the loss of my mountain, but in 3 days, the mountain was flattened. Now, was Jesus talking about physical mountains? Probably not, but what a great example. All the resources, all the equipment needed to take that beautiful forest down. I'm still grieving it and depressed about it. But what a great metaphor for the blocks and the mountains in our lives. Those things that we have said have the power. Oh, I cannot achieve my dream because this is in the way. It's not magic, folks. It's organic living. Everything David described is not a miracle. It's absolutely the way you were created, in and after the likeness of creation itself. So whatever is in your way, I'm going to invite you to know the truth, to follow the river and let it set you free, and watch as it magnificently and beautifully dissolves before your very eyes. And suddenly that which somebody said was impossible becomes absolutely organic living.
You know, one of the things that I believe that God is doing for the planet now is helping to serve us with all the craziness that's going on in great and wondrous ways. And one of those ways I found to be Psych-K, psychological kinesiology, or subconscious reprogramming. And I had an instantaneous shift, a healing with that when I first got involved with it, and I've been involved with it ever since then. And one of the things that I've learned from this is how we literally create our reality. We create one of two different realities. Our ego in conjunction with our subconscious mind, which is responsible for creating our behavior, that creates a self-defeating reality. And our heart in conjunction with our subconscious mind creates a positive, productive reality. And the way that we create is where we're functioning from. If we're functioning from fear and survival, we're creating self